In this lesson, we will smooth the movements of the horse's upper body during the gallop. So we'll just want to take this one step at a time, focusing on the core movements first. Then we could start to refine the spine, smoothing out the pelvis, and possibly adding movement from the mid-vertebrae control in order to, in the end, get a sense of a subdued, slinky type of feeling in the horse's spine. So that's the type of sine wave pattern we should see by the end of this. Alright, so let's go ahead and start loosening the horse up. We'll go ahead and grab our center of gravity control. Let's go ahead and head over to our curve editor. Okay, so at this point, we'll just go ahead and work our way one track at a time. We saw that in the preview, it was pretty abrupt when we took a look at the beginning of the cycle because of the change from 1 to 2. So we'll want to start smoothing that out. The way I like to do that is to first look for our hills and valleys, our highest keys and the lowest keys. And then we can smooth out in between by just optimizing the F-curve, getting rid of what we don't need. That doesn't mean we should get rid of all keys in between those ranges. There's some that we'll need to keep to make sure that the rest of the body keeps the pose that we have blocked in, so keeps that natural looking pose. But still, keys that really do nothing for us, like frame 3 and 4, we can go ahead and delete those, since there was not much change to the function curve when they were removed. It means that, again, it's a key that can be cleaned up with no worries. Now at that point, we can go ahead and grab the key on 2, and I'll go ahead and just drag that key over just one frame, frame 3, to smooth out the movements in the beginning a little bit more. Then also, it seems like the horse pops up a bit too high on 3, so we can just start to drag this keyframe down a little bit more. If you'd like, head over to Options and turn on Interactive Update so you can see that change on the fly. Alright, beautiful. So now moving forward, I'd say taking a look at things, we can get rid of the key on frame 5 as well, but we will keep the key on 6. We need that pose there. Now as we move to frame 7, again, that's another key that's not needed. However, we do want to keep the key on frame 8 since that is our valley key, the lowest point. Alright, so as we move forward, again on frame 9, another key we don't need. 10, we'll make sure to keep. Let's also remove 11 and 12. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. I will keep frame 13, but we may be able to remove 14 and 15. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'll go ahead and start by removing those keys, and then we can grab the key on frame 13 and start to drag its tension handle in order to get more of a straighter leg for our front right leg to look natural. So it almost seems that 14 is okay, but 15 will need a keyframe. So at that point, we could always right click and choose the Insert Key tool. Let's go ahead and click on frame 15, go back to our Move Keys tool, and then start to drag this up to lock the leg. Beautiful. So now we have some very fluid motion in our center of gravity. We'll take a look at a preview at the end of this. Okay, so at this point, we can now move to the other position tracks and just get rid of our in-between keys. So I've gotten rid of frames 2 all the way to 15 for the position Y simply because there's no need to animate in that necessarily. If you were working on more of a cartoony animation and you wanted more squash and stretch in your vertebrae, then you can translate the spine forward. But in our case, we're going for realism. So we won't need to worry about that track. And the x-axis is the same way. The horse is a rather rigid creature. Therefore, we wouldn't get much side to side here. You'd expect more of that in a feline. Okay, great. So at this point, we can now go ahead and work on the other tracks, making sure they're clean. Beautiful. So I'm just checking the 0 rotation list. And now we can move over to the pelvis and get to work. So again, let's go ahead and start with the main movements. We'll start with our position Z. And we'll want to get rid of any keys here that lie between our hills and valleys. So that's 2 all the way to about frame 7. Let's go in and delete those. And then here, we can go in and just taking a look at this, making sure we don't remove what we need. I might keep the key on frame 13, but we'll most certainly go in and remove 14 and 15. Beautiful. All right, so at this point, we can now move to the rotate x-axis. And again, we can get rid of our keys that lie between our high and low points. So I'll get rid of 2 all the way to 4 in the beginning. Let's go ahead and grab those, remove them. And then we can get rid of 6 all the way to about frame 11, since 12 is our low point. We'll do the same at the end of the animation. Just go ahead and get rid of those in-between keys. Now, to get a smooth blend, here's the trick. You can see that we have this type of pause when we leave the animation. And then we have a pause again at the beginning. So it's just a matter of smoothly blending between the infinite curve and the real F curve. Okay, great. So if you were to take a look at the function curve now, we should get a smooth flow. And if you take a look at the infinite curve, again, we'll get a smooth wave. Great. There are times when we don't want a smooth F curve, and it's really just a matter of making sure we're getting the right poses and the right timing. But in our case, this will work. Now you can see when we get to about frame 10, there is a little bit of flipping in the right pelvic leg, but we know how to fix this already. Just simply select the knee control and move it up. Great. All right, so the pelvis looks really nice. Let's go ahead and check the other tracks. Let's make sure they're clean. So I'll go back to the position list. And we could start to just go in and remove the keys that we don't need. So that's the position X and Y. Let's go in and delete those. And then we can go to our rotation list and start to optimize these function curves. So that's the y-axis and the z-axis. Great. We want to keep these anchor points, mainly because if we do decide to go in and add animation, we can seamlessly integrate new keyframes without having to worry about our start and end frames. Okay, great. Well, that's it for the pelvis. We're just about ready to create a preview. Now, remember, we want more of that sine wave type of pattern in the horse's spine, so we'll use our mid-vertebrae control to finish up here. So at about frame 3, the high point, we'll want the spine to curve a bit more around the pelvis. So I'll go ahead and translate the control up a little bit higher here. And then when we get to the stretch position on around frame 9, we want more of a flat line in the spine. So I'll also go in and just translate it up slightly here. Not much at all. And now to smooth this pattern out, let's go ahead and grab our position Z track. We'll first want our start and end keys to lie between the two keyframes we've just created. So let's go ahead and start translating them up. And then at that point, we can go ahead and zoom in. And just like our rotation X track on the pelvis, we'll start to create a smooth blend in our function curve by adjusting our start and end tangents. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we are now ready to take a look at a preview. So at this point, I'll go ahead and pause the video. When I come back, we'll take a look at our progress. Here it is. Okay, great. So I'd say things are looking very nice. We're getting that smooth pattern in the spine that we aimed for. If anything, I'd say we can smooth out the position Z of the center of gravity a little bit more for more of a hold as we leave the horse's high point. Let's go ahead and take care of that to finish up the spine. So that's just a matter of grabbing the center of gravity, heading over to the curve editor, grabbing the key at the high point on frame 3, and just adding more of a hold by grabbing the out tangent, just dragging that out a little bit more. We want to make sure holds exist because they add realism. It's almost like a bouncing ball. When you get to the high point, there's more of a hold before the ball begins to fall. Okay, great, much better. All right, so guess what? That finishes up our spine. We're now ready to finalize the legs in the next lesson.